Welcome to Unleash the Awesome with Dave Gambrill. All of us have unique skills, talents, and abilities that aren't being used to their full potential. Our mission is to share the people, tools, apps, and other resources that will help you unleash your awesome on the world.
Yo, what's up? It's Dave. Welcome to another episode of Unleash the Awesome. Today, let's talk about reduce the variables. Reduce the variables. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're going to do anything new, if you're going to try something new, if you're going to launch a new business, launch a new side hustle, maybe launch a personal brand. Maybe you're working a full-time job, but you want to be more out there, have some thought leadership, whatever the case may be. When you want to do something new, one of the best things you could do to be successful faster is to reduce the variables. What I mean by that is reduce the number of things that are unknown so that when you need to pivot, when you need to fix things, when you need to course correct, there aren't a million things to worry about or look at. There's only a few because you've reduced the number of variables. For about 12 years of my life, I worked in a high science job for a pharmaceutical company many of you would know. And my job primarily was to take clinical data from really well done clinical studies, digest that information, synthesize it, and then be able to share it with clinicians, doctors, nurses, pharmacists, other prescribers, other people in the healthcare system. I had to take all that information and share it with them. And one of the things you'll figure out when you do clinical studies is that they, in order to show that a medication or a drug or a new thing works, what they have to do is eliminate all the other variables, or as many as possible, to be able to say that this thing actually works. So what they do is they'll often compare this new product to a placebo or a sugar pill or something that doesn't really do anything. Sometimes they'll compare it to what's known as an active comparator. It's just another thing that we know works well in that space. And what they do is they try to get populations of people that look the same, that have the same kind of disease state. If it's, they measure their cholesterol, their diabetes or whatever, same ages, same general makeup for race, ethnicity, height, weight, all those things. They try to get two populations that look the same. They give one the treatment, they give the other one nothing. They think they're getting a treatment. And then they say, okay, let's run the study and see. And they run it over a period of time. And when they do it well, what they can figure out with a high statistical significance, so what's known as a low p-value in statistics, that product, that drug, that medication actually has the intended result. That actually shows that it works because they have reduced all the other variables, okay? So when you're thinking about launching a business or doing something new like that, let's talk about launching a side hustle or a business, because this is what I coach a lot of people through. If you have a new idea, if you have a new concept, if you want to launch anything, a new course, a book, a conference, whatever, that new thing is a huge variable in itself, okay? It's unknown. You don't know whether or not that thing works. And so then you have to figure out, okay, who is the audience or the niche that I'm going to target? And if you don't do any research on that, that's another huge variable. But I did a podcast episode on how to do free market research. I'll make sure I put it in the show notes so you have access to it. I would highly recommend you go listen to it if you want to figure out your niche or who you're looking to target or your market, because there's lots of free things I talked about in there that will help you do that. But if you have a new idea, new concept, and you want to launch it, and then you don't do any research into your niche or your marketplace, and then you take that thing, let's say it's a course, you want to do an online course, and then you put it on some new software that just came out yesterday, some shiny new object, that is also a variable, okay? What I recommend to people when they want to do this is I say, look, go use what I use and have used for over, I think it's 12 years now. It's at least 10 years. Kajabi. It's the best-in-class solution for putting your courses online. I'll make sure my affiliate link is in the comments for you so you can get a nice long trial to check it out if you want. But sometimes what people will do is they'll ignore that advice and say, I'm going to use this new shiny thing. I say, okay, whatever. I can't make you do anything. You're making your own choices here. And then I'll say, well, maybe you should look at using a copywriting format that is well known, AIDA or PASS or some of the other ones. I'm just going to write my own copy. I'm like, okay. And then I say, well, maybe you should think about pricing or making an offer stack or creating it like this. Like, we know these things tend to work in the marketplace. I'm going to do my own thing. All right. So you'll see now in each one of these phases, and this is just a handful of them. There's probably, I haven't counted, but in any new endeavor, putting it out there, there's probably at least 25 variables of differing levels. All right. So if your thing is unknown and you didn't research your market and you're going to put your thing on a platform that is not new, is new, it's not tested, it's not well known, it hasn't shown its promise in the marketplace or that you can actually successfully launch courses on it. If you're just going to write your own copy at the seat of your pants, like doing your own thing, all of these things now are massive variables. So inevitably, when you launch this thing, you're not going to get the success you want right out of the gate. You might have some success, you might have no success, you might have some okay success, but you're not going to have what you want. It's guaranteed. So then when you want to go figure out how to make it better, you have too many variables to look at to say, well, it must be this, or it must be this, right? Maybe it's your hook, your story, your offer. In this case, it could be any of your copywriting. It could be the platform you put it on. It could be the market, the niche. It could be your idea. It could be any of it because you didn't do any validation or reduce the variables in those different categories to say, okay, well, I know this platform, Kajabi, works. I've seen other people use it in the marketplace. I know this copywriting idea basically works. AIDA, right, stands for attention, interest, or awareness. Sometimes people call it that: awareness, interest, desire, action. I did a whole podcast episode on that. I'll put that in the show notes for you as well. So I use copy this way. I put it on a platform I know that works. I priced it this way or have an offer stack this way, and it did okay. And I validated the marketplace. And it did okay. I'm like, okay, now we probably just need to take a look at your hook, your story, and your offer, right? Let's look at these three things and see if we can tweak that a little bit. Sometimes it's pricing, sometimes it's something else. But now we only have one or two or maybe three things that we need to look at, some variables, some levers we can pull to say, okay, let's try this and relaunch it, or let's change this. Right? And here's the next thing you got to really focus on is don't change everything. Okay, so if you got some validation, if you had some success out of the gate, don't throw everything away, right? If we've eliminated some variables and now we have something that's working a little bit, this now becomes your control. This goes back to the science thing, right? We know this works, so let's make changes and compare it to this. When we make a change, when we have a new variable, let's compare it to this. When we change the variable, does the output that we're looking for get better or worse, right? But unfortunately, what a lot of people do is they'll have some success and then they'll go, oh, okay, that wasn't exactly what I wanted. And they go back and they kind of do everything again. They maybe put it on a new platform. They change the pricing structure. They change their messaging. They change all of these things. And then they put it out there again. And maybe they just have some limited success again, right? So, but you can't look at what the factors were that helped create that success. It could be all different things because you didn't compare it to what you had before, right? You didn't reduce the variables. But if you have an idea, right, that's a variable right out of the gate. If you've never put it on the marketplace, you don't know whether or not it's going to work. Okay, so that's a variable unto itself. But then if you put it on a platform that we know works and you do some market research and use some tested copywriting frameworks and you do a hook, story, and an offer, and you create your offer in such a way that there's a huge offer stack with lots of value, and you don't price it wrong, right? You price it a little bit lower maybe than what you think it should be out there for, and you get all that figured out, and then you have some success, then we can go, okay, well, we know this works, we know that works, we know that works. Let's just tweak this one little thing. If there's only one or two variables that we can tweak, then we're only going to change one. We'll change one and we'll put it out there again. Maybe we'll run some ads or send it to a portion of our email list or whatever and say, okay, we changed just one thing. Listen, sometimes, especially when this comes to, it's called split testing or A/B testing emails, sometimes changing one word in the subject line of an email can increase the click-through rate exponentially. Sometimes it could literally be the same subject, but it's not capitalized. The first word's not capitalized. Like it could be something as simple as that. So then you make the one change, you send it out, and then you get better results. And you're like, okay, so now if you have just a few variables, you've reduced the variables, and you say, okay, we only have one or two things here. Let's change this one thing and see what happens. So you had some limited success. You change one thing, and I have more success. Okay, now that new thing, the way you put it out there, is your new control. This is the new thing we're going to compare everything else to. It's like, okay, this one's working better than the last one. So we know this is working. So what I recommend to a lot of people is let's double down on this and just make sure it's not a fluke. Let's get some more data. Let's run some ads against this, or send this out to our list, or do a Facebook Live, or do a podcast episode, whatever. Let's drive a little more traffic to this and see, and just validate it. And so if it continues to work at the way that it has worked previously, then you go, okay, we're on to something. And then if you want to get better results, you only change one thing. You have one variable. So maybe you tweak the copy. Maybe you tweak the offer stack. Maybe you tweak some of the marketing going into it, right? But you just change one thing, not a million things. Don't throw it all out. We have something that's working. Do more of what's working and less of what's not, right? So we have this new thing, and they go, okay, and they just change one thing, and so on and so on and so on, okay? So my encouragement to you would be, if you're putting something new out there, if you're launching something new, again, whether it's like a personal brand, or you're launching a side hustle, or you're even writing a book, eliminate as many variables going in as you can. If you think about writing a book, like, why would you try to go publish it somewhere other than Kindle Direct Publishing? Unless you have a publishing deal, great, congratulations. But like KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, is, we know that books sell on there, right? Maybe you want to get your own ISBN number or whatever, and not use Amazon so you can sell it in other places. Okay, that's fine. But we know that that's a platform that works. I run into people like, I'm going to write a book. They've never written a book before. I'm going to publish it, self-publish it through some other publishing house that like nobody's ever heard of, and they're going to put it out there, and then they do it, and they have to buy like 5,000 copies and try to sell them from the garage. And it's just, that's the old school way of doing it. But if you validate the idea for your book, do some market research, again, that podcast episode I did before, actually Amazon is one of the places I tell you to go to check out some of these things. You see, okay, people want to learn about this. They're spending money in this place. All right, let's put it out on Kindle. You get it out there. You look at how the other people are pricing it successfully, and then you launch it. There's a pretty good chance your book is going to sell at least something, right? Because you reduced the number of variables. All right, so no matter what it is you're trying to do, you're coming up with a new thing, my encouragement to you would be reduce the variables. And until next time, go unleash your awesome with reduced variables. You'll be able to unleash your awesome so much better. So go unleash your awesome on the world. See you.
Thanks for listening to Unleash the Awesome. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please share us on your favorite social media platforms using #UnleashAwesome.